two, one. Welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. Today we have an incredibly special guest, royalty. I mean, if your handle on Twitter is 619 Sports, I mean, you have to be an OG or just have earned it, and no person
Facts.
better to have that handle than the great, powerful Mr. Craig Elsten. How are you, sir?
Tony Chiva, thank you so much for having me on, boys. Yeah, I think I was just to the Twitter at the right time, right? I got to the old twitter.com at the exact right time to grab that handle. Can't find it anywhere else.
No, 100%. And again, it would be a shame if it went to somebody who didn't live, breathe, just consume and be part of so much sports content throughout, up and down San Diego. Obviously, just a landmark individual that we have here today, Mr. Craig. I mean, thank you for coming on today. There's a lot that we want to get into, but I just want to get a little bit of your take. We were talking a little bit about it off camera, but you run an empire, essentially, a couple of empires. The soccer's being one of them, and we were just talking about just the complications of this COVID lifestyle. As a broadcaster, as a play-by-play announcer, as the media guy, as a jack of all trades, essentially. How has this pandemic just affected, other than everything, how has it affected your work in doing what you love to do, and essentially everything for the Soccers?
Yeah, it is so crazy, guys. I mean, in 3 weeks, it'll be a complete calendar year that I have worked from home for the San Diego Soccers. And there's a blessing and a curse within that. I always kind of joked before when people talked about my job and, you love your job. And I absolutely love everything about working for the Soccers. And if their offices were in La Mesa, it would be the perfect life for me because our offices are in San Marcos. I live in La Mesa. And so for me, it was like an hour, 15-minute commute there, an hour and 15 commute back, hitting the traffic both ways. And that was the one thing I hated about my job, and everything else was great. So I've eliminated the commute, which in many ways makes it the perfect job. However, trying to run and operate a social media thing and just be part of a club when you're not with the club, it's weird. It's unnerving at times. And, I'll be honest, like, our family has been very strict about not breaking COVID guidelines and being careful, and we've stayed healthy the whole time. And one of the only things that's ever pulled on my heartstrings, like, maybe you should just go, is this COVID season where our club's on the road every single game. And normally I am the person in our front office who travels with the team. So I'm there with the club at the airport, today we'd be at the hotel, bringing folks the behind the scenes stuff on our Instagram story, and even working, overnight with our athletic trainer who runs the show on the road to make sure our jerseys are washed and ironed, and like all the things that go into being a club on the road. Like, I'm part of that, and to instead just be this little man in the Zoom box with the scarves behind me, doing interviews, it's really been bizarre. But you take the bread you have and you slice it up, I guess.
Are you enjoying any part of this COVID protocol season that we're going through? We've talked with a couple of people in the business, and there are little things such as it's a little more comfortable, a little bit easier access to get Zoom calls and whatnot. But is there any aspect that you say, hey, you know what? Maybe if we translate this into after COVID, is there anything that comes to mind?
Well, I do think for all of us that do podcasts, I think that Zoom is something we're not going to really get away from. I mean, whereas in the past, for example, my Crossing Streams podcast, my television podcast, I used to go every week. Like, I'd meet somebody at a various bar somewhere in San Diego County, and we'd pick a place to go, and then we'd go and post up and get a pint and do the show. But now it's like, okay, we'll connect on Zoom, and it actually opens up a lot of people in terms of being available that may otherwise not have had the chance to. So I think a lot of us are going to keep doing these interviews on Zoom. I think that's opened up a lot. And for example, on the road, that is a really nice thing where we can still have a face to
Hmm.
face and have something that is easily translatable and repackageable, right? For our viewing audience and our consuming audience. So that part I think is good. I mean, like I said, I personally think working from home is something I want to continue to integrate. And we've talked about it at Soccer's going forward. I'm like, look, as many times as I can not drive to Carlsbad, I will not drive to Carlsbad. We're eventually going to have an arena in Oceanside. That's going to make it, another layer of complication.
Going up into Oceanside is going to add a little bit more complication into it. But again, it sounds exciting because there are these projects still
Yeah.
after. And so that's something that, obviously there's this giant history with soccer's. What is something that right now, let's say somebody like Mr. Chiva over here, we're talking like, I'm not very familiar too much with the history of soccer's. If I want to get into it right now, why should I, other than it being a San Diego and being one of the only teams, if not the only team that won a championship here in San Diego?
Well, Tony, more than anything, I'm so excited to be on the podcast to talk about this particular topic of discussion. And Chiva, I'd love to get your thoughts and to really hear, your honest thoughts about this, because I think one of the biggest mistakes that the sport of indoor soccer has made over the years and decades is somewhat siloing itself off from the rest of soccer culture. Now, when I say that, I also feel like I need to add a little bit of US soccer history to explain this discussion, because the height of indoor soccer in this country came at a time when there was no major professional outdoor soccer league. From 1984, when the NASL folded, until 1996, when MLS came to be, you had second tier, you had third tier, you had some sporadic stuff, but you didn't have an everyday, pro number one top level outdoor league in the United States. And as such, a couple things happened. The best foreign players that wanted to come to play in the United States, players from Yugoslavia, players, from Ireland in the case of Brian Quinn, England, they would come and play indoor.
Mm-hmm.
They would play professionally indoors because that's where the money was, that's where the television was, that's where the crowds were. That was the highest level of professional soccer in the United States, was the pro indoor game. So at that time it was the thing. And then at the time that outdoor began to rise in popularity in the US, that's when the indoor leagues were starting to fade
Mm-hmm.
and were falling apart. When I came back to this sport, I thought it was insane that the great, passionate culture of soccer that we all love so much and want to participate in,
Mm-hmm.
that it didn't feel like it was connected to indoor. And I'm like, look at the players. If you're a San Diego loyal fan, I'm here to tell you the players in the Major Arena Soccer League are USL Championship level, because you see USL Championship players like Tony Walls, Frank Tayu, flip back and forth
Yeah.
between USL and between MASL. That's the level of players. So if you're a fan of USL, it's not like you're being asked to go watch a kiddie league, to watch Major Arena Soccer. It's just a matter of, it's a niched sport in a way, because it isn't outdoors, because it is 6v6, because it's a winter sport, as opposed to a spring and summer league. And Chiva, you are like literally the guy. You're in the center of the strike zone of the type of person I want to be a Sockers fan, to
Mhm.
come and see what how much there is to enjoy
Yeah.
about the sport, to see the skill level, to see the competition level, and the excitement, and just how close the games are, how exciting, how tense they are. And I believe a guy like you will go and then hopefully bring some of that outdoor culture
Yeah.
into our arena. We're trying to build up our supporters culture. We're trying to build up our chants and our songs and our drums and like all of that. And I feel like indoor made a big mistake by not welcoming all of that in
Mhm.
all the time. That's what me with the Sockers, that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah, I think you have a really good point there. You think about it like them hiding away, and then I just immediately think like another sport that does that is beach soccer. Like beach soccer is really popular in the
Yeah.
Olympics, and it's so much fun to watch. And And again, you are talking professional. There are professional players, and the same thing we had with USL. When
Yeah.
at first we didn't know if the USL was going to be any good, and we started watching a game live, and we're like,
And it's damn
these
good.
guys are fucking good.
It's
They're professional
professionals,
players. You know, and I think I would enjoy watching the soccer play. Personally, growing up, I've personally preferred indoor soccer.
Just playing,
and,
right?
and just playing
Yeah.
with friends at 5-on-5, 6-on-6. You know,
You don't need 22 players. Is the thing.
since
Like,
I was in middle school, man, we would always go like, "Oh, Feaster at 8." It's a big saying that we would always like, "Oh, we're gonna go play at the Feaster Elementary parking lot at 8." Las retas se arman. Yeah, everyone starts playing 5-on-5, 6-on-6, and it's the same thing that this is. This is just pro level.
yeah, and I'll be. I grew up, you know, and we'll talk about my contract with Soccer's later. But I grew up playing
Understood.
indoor soccer in Tijuana, in Furati.
Yeah.
I grew up playing in Fogol. I grew up in all those places, and my love for soccer stems from indoor soccer, and I think that's another.
All the parts are indoors.
Exactly, and I feel like that's another disconnect where, you know, it doesn't appeal or not reaching out necessarily to the young audience out there, not just because of the accessibility of it, because like it or not, as unaccessible as soccer is, it's outdoor soccer. There's I can think of 3 like outdoor grass venues that aren't at the local Y or the local Boys and Girls Club, whatnot, and that's something that's also needed. But man, like, I got my ass kicked in 1999 or something when the Soccers went over to Furati, and then it was a bunch of little kids playing against professionals in the halftime, and we got murdered. And it was the super bench guys, and because they were playing against Tijuana All Stars or something like that. And that's the first time I went like, wow, like that's the professional level of indoor soccer that's possible. And that's a platform in Mexico, at least, to say, I'm going to hone my skills here and bring them over to the big side. No, that's if we can have it be to where, hey, hone your skills here and keep them in here within the walls
and grow the league.
I think that's a very important piece to all of this.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I just to build on what you're talking about, I feel like it's so important for our soccer's franchise to connect to the culture of our Mexican audience living in Tijuana, to the South Bay audience, to Chula Vista, to San Ysidro, you know, and all the way up through the South Bay. We are a team that is about half Mexican. You know, I've spent a little, almost approaching 2 years now, learning Spanish every single day because I want to be able to communicate with our players. I want to be able to have those interviews and to bring out those stories. You know, we've got 4 Tijuanense on our team, including Brandon Escoto, who's a young, you know, Tijuana star, one of the best players on our club. And one of the things we were really working on, Tony and Chiva, before the shutdown was connecting to the South Bay. You know, I brought on Alex Montoya, who had the same job with the Padres for years, to help us connect, to lead me to the right people, to make the right connections. And it's really important to me because I feel like, where are people loving soccer? Let's bring them to the soccer, you know, and make it okay. I feel like in some ways you almost have to give permission to be willing to go and embrace the sport of indoor. And that's why I think it's so important for us to continue to build a collaborative relationship with Loyal as well. And it's something we've tried to work on from the beginning. Obviously, we have a relationship with Landon from the beginning, with Warren from the beginning. And ultimately, my dream is to see a world where we have, let's say, 4 to 6 guys who are year-round players, who are playing for the Loyal during the summer and playing for the Soccers in the winter.
Oh, wow.
And it's absolutely possible for that to happen. And to see that type of crossover, I think that would really kind of give that permission slip to people to say, you know what, come on over because you like Jack Blake, you know, so come on over and watch him play year round and give the boys a chance to live in San Diego year round and to get paid professionally year round. I think there's a symbiosis there that is just going to take time, but eventually it could come to pass.
And Soccers is a championship winning team. And that's the thing. Like, every time somebody, obviously people are talking about NFL, MLB, you know, championships in a city. But when they talk about San Diego never winning a title, no, the San Diego Soccers have a history of winning, a rich history of winning, a rich history of players.
Yeah.
I've had the chance to visit with Julie V, in some of his community efforts here, and it's when you go through the rosters, you go
Had
through
big names, man.
big names.
Hugo Sanchez.
Huguito, you had obviously Landon not too
Landon,
long ago,
yeah.
which I still think was a part of his master plan to like
Stay in
to
San
like
Diego.
get ingrained in San Diego. He just
Yeah.
had a great time. A little side piece. How was that? Like, how was having the greatest soccer player in American history playing for the San Diego Sockers?
I think his first game was like a record breaking like audience, right?
Absolutely. It was everything we could have asked for and more, to be honest. One and only one thing hurt us. We didn't win the title, and we lost in overtime in the semifinal. And it was an unfortunate result for our club, to be sure. Uh, but from the standpoint of raising the platform of the San Diego Sockers, reintegrating outdoor fans, reintroducing them to the indoor game, all of this was mission accomplished with Landon. And my only, it's a funny thing to say, oh, it was his secret plan all along. Maybe. It wasn't ours. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We would have been happy to sign Landon to a 3-year deal
Yeah.
and to have him help play us into the new arena, right? That would have been probably the ultimate. Now, just to call a spade, Landon wasn't the best player on our team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Really. Yeah.
and so that's one thing that I think none of us knew coming in. Was Landon going to come in and dominate the league and score 4 goals a game, or was it going to be tough? And our thought was it was going to be tough.
Yeah.
And it did turn out, and he found out just how difficult the indoor game is. It's not an easy game to play,
It's a
even
whole
for the
nother
greatest player in U.S. soccer history. It's not an easy game. You have to learn a lot, but he was getting better. He did do things that I thought raised the level of all the boys on the team. And quite honestly, guys, it's a magical moment in my life and career to just have been part of the idea and the recruitment and the execution of the whole thing, the secret as we were getting it done, a race down the highway to get the contract signed when the Steve Wall, Grant Wall had leaked it. And had put it out there, and so like we were on the race to get the pen to the paper. I mean, it's a magical time that I'll remember from my whole life.
No, I mean obviously indoor soccer is a completely different game than outdoor soccer, man.
Yeah.
It's fast paced, short passing. You really gotta trust your guys on the field. You guys gotta know how well you guys play each other. You gotta know everyone's game.
It's like it's hockey with the legs. There's angles. There's it's more physical. There's a lot of risk in it. If you get into those corner walls at a certain speed, it is indoor soccer.
Knowing how to play with the wall.
Exactly, and it's enough. Just the fact that it's a different size ball, different size goals, different size just fundamentally it's soccer, but at the same time it's just completely different. As a goalkeeper, if a ball goes behind you over the bar, guess what? You got to turn around because it's right here, right back at you.
It's perfect for regular soccer fans because you still understand the game. It's also perfect for those fans that don't really like soccer and they're like, well, it's so boring.
Shootouts
it's
are fun as hell,
0-0,
bro.
this and that. Those games end up being like 6-4, 5-4. They're high scoring games most of the time. So it's really exciting to watch. So honestly, I think that target audience should also be those people that want to get into soccer but are not really the whole into it's 45-minute halves and it's 11-11 and they're just passing it back and forth. This is a whole different game, guys. This is a lot more intense.
And to be honest, that's been the historic crowd for indoor soccer, has been like white families that didn't care too much about or didn't even understand or know outdoor soccer, but went, oh, I like this. Like you, just exactly what you said. I just watched 11 goals. I can see the players. That guy's really cute. Like there's all of that. Our sport is the most accessible, right? We make at Soccer's, it's a tradition after every single game, win or heartbreaking playoff loss. Our boys go all the way around the arena and sign every autograph.
Nice.
Sign every autograph, take every picture. sign every piece of merch or memorabilia, and that's part of that culture, is that you feel like you're really part of it. It's that inclusivity. um, Being very fan forward is a huge part of our sport. um, I just want to see it married a little more, because
Mm-hmm.
I think of, not to be self-centered about it, but like I do think of a person like myself. I probably came to indoor stronger earlier than to outdoor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in some ways I was like that fan that you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
Chiba. But then now I'm a loyal season ticket holder, right? And absolutely love everything about the outdoor game as well, and have I've kind of famously never adopted an EPL team yet, but I've got a team in Australia, I've got a team in Italy, it's like I've
Well,
got teams wherever.
we have
I
the best
mean,
player in the world right now, Bruno
we
Fernandes,
have
Manchester United. So
oil tycoon, dirty Russian money,
yeah,
the,
you don't want to be blue.
the color blue.
You already have enough blue with soccer.
We don't like
Change
Arsenal,
red
Liverpool.
is
Hey,
beautiful color.
it, eh.
Like I said, I don't have a team. So. but I do feel like there's people like us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of people like us. There's a lot of soccer fans that I meet, and then I say, "Come check out Soccer's," and then they do, and they're in.
Hmm.
And then I'll give an example. Jerry Jimenez,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My podcast partner on Soccer's Overtime. He came in, started doing some game day social media stuff for us. He had never really watched indoor, but soccer's in his blood.
Yeah.
No.
And as soon as he started watching indoor, now, he's got the pass. He's watching every game, and there it's in there. And the Soccers are a great gateway, you know, to get into indoor, because we're always going to be a winning team, and there's always the chase, whether we make it or not. There's the chase for the championship. So in that way, like a Man U or whatever, like there's always that expectation
Hmm.
to be at the top of the table. And I love working for an organization that cares that much about winning.
100%. And another thing that soccer's got going for them, as you mentioned, is, there is that marriage between Tijuana, Southern California, Southern San Diego, and this general area. I know you had Jurado on to the soccer. Shout out to the San Diego Soccer's YouTube page. And again, you're using your wonderful Spanish, which is great, by the way. Shout out to your Spanish.
Awesome, yeah,
But again, it gives that insight to speaking to a player that that's playing for San Diego, that isn't even living in the country, but then gives you a different perspective, because you're like, what? He's ended up being neighbors with
Escoto.
Escoto. And so, you just learn that, like, there's these dynamics, and, just like any team. But I feel like, that is something that a team like maybe Loyal is trying to do. And San Diego Soccer's has it. And it's already there for us to just consume, and everybody's doing such a great job. Is that kind of what it's like? Just you guys feel like the groundwork is there. Let's go ahead and move up from now. And what would be in a perfect world? In a perfect world, how would you guys work with what you have right now?
Well, I'd love to see an even, like I said, deeper integration. We before COVID shut us all down, we were planning to have caravans, down Logan Street, through South Bay, and we've been working with partners in Tijuana on television. We were doing rebroadcasts of our games on our home games on Synthesis
Synthesis.
TV.
I love it.
Down there, we've worked with TV Azteca down there, to get boys like Escoto, like Christian Gutierrez, into studio on their screens. And again, it's been so much tougher the last year, just because of everything being up in the air the way it is, and me not being physically with the team. It's a different situation. But yeah, I feel like it's just day by day. You grow it, and that's the same way I feel about my Spanish. It's dia por dia, like it's just every day a little bit. You learn, you get stronger, you try and get better. I miss being around mis hermanos because that's when I actually learn. You know, the app only does so much. I'm really a lot better at reading than I am at listening right now, and it's so that makes me messaging with the boys a lot easier than it is sometimes when we were talking. But by talking to them, that's when I really do get the true understanding. And as Cerda, for example, Cesar Cerda on our team, he says, "You're learning Spanish, but I'm going to teach you Mexican."
There you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
There
That's
you
what
go.
you need to learn.
That's the whole, pinche pendejo, güey, pásala. That's the Mexican
hey,
right there.
Hey, esto acá.
So I'm gonna give you guys, I think that would work out. Marketing advice. I'm not even anything marketing expert or
okay.
anything.
Okay.
It's already gonna attract a lot of South Bay people. Retas profesionales. Cáiganle, and then you just put ALV as in Victor, and people are gonna show up. People will show up.
We also need families. Needs to be a PG message, I would feel. And ALV.
Well, this is more of a rated R message.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have people show up, and they're gonna enjoy and just put free beer. People will show up for sure.
I mean, $2 beer isn't that bad. When
$2 beer, man.
when it is rocking and rolling, $2 beers, you can't beat that.
We have done some $2 Bud Light Friday nights. That is a thing that's happened.
Exactly.
The funny thing is, those attract sellout crowds for hockey. It turns out, like, East County rednecks just want to drink Bud Light. It's not just that it's cheap; it's actually their favorite beer.
True, and then you get
the
to see some
difference.
fights.
On and off the ice.
Correct. That's one thing. Yeah, waiting for blood on the turf. I mean, occasionally, but not by plan.
It's those turf burns. Have you ever gotten some of the turf burns on there by any chance?
Oh my god!
Like that gives you some character. That does
See,
really
I'm
does.
a big guy. I never really slid.
Oh, see, I'm a goalkeeper. Like that's
Yeah,
my
you're
whole
a
thing.
goalkeeper, yeah.
Like it makes you feel alive just around the sides, and then all the week you're just feeling it. Like you're just constantly putting alcohol in it.
Which, by the way, have you seen his highlights? Have you seen his highlights, man?
Well, see, one thing you might not have known, Chiva, is that I originally hesitated to take this because I do have some scouting functions with the club, and I felt like really it was me who was the assigned area scout for Tony. So, you know, I was afraid, like, would that impair my judgment, you know, my ability to really suss him out? But right now we've got Tony penciled in as our number 5 goalkeeper.
Hey,
So-
look. I mean, I'm always down for a 1-day contract just so I can rub it in your face that I'm a professional, technically speaking. But I mean, if I have to just shed them again and just lace them up, I still got my my sambas that are just that's the go-to.
Just letting you guys know, Loyal only have 2 official goalkeepers right now.
I mean that like Craig
You guys
was
might
saying,
miss out. You guys might miss out.
That's where I come in. We were talking about it. The hybrid positions. Hey, Loyal, you playing this season? Hey, we're gonna have Jack Blake and Tony Sanchez in goal. Oh, Craig. Hey, yep. Like I said, just WWE live passes. We're SmackDown, Raw. Just that's all I require. That's all. You know, pretty easy to do. Maybe meet a wrestler or two. Maybe get in a match.
And a meal plan.
All right. All right.
Oh, man.
But definitely, as far as, speaking about everything locally, especially with soccer, with the Loyal, obviously you still had 1904, but with this movement, you've been in the area, you've seen just the sport grow as it should here. It's a hotbed, and it's a hotbed of baseball in San Diego, but it's also a hotbed of soccer that has been untapped. Yeah. How excited are you to see just the unraveling, the growth of San Diego sports and San Diego soccer specifically?
You know, I really, when you ask me that question, the people that come to my mind are Steve Brokoff, Jerry Jimenez, Drew Stack, who's Drew Stonks right now.
Drew Stonks on Twitter.
I by the way, I think tonight, 7:00, they're doing a live podcast where we're going to unveil the 2021 Loyals local scarf.
Nice.
And I can't wait to get mine. I mean, you can see I've got the inaugural one back there. I'm a member of the locals. I think I'm member number 23.
Hey, Tatis's number.
Nice.
Exactly. At the time, they were saying LeBron, but now we're only going to say Tatis.
Yep.
And I am so excited to see what's happened over the last 5 years because I've known so many of these guys through American Outlaws, and to know the passion that they've had that's never been able to have a local place and a local home. And then to go through Soccer City
Yep.
and to go through what happened there. And I really do feel like the burn and the pain that we all experienced in Soccer City, it got transferred and transmuted into love for Loyal. A club that I don't think could have come more correct
Yeah.
with the way they came into our community, with the way they introduced themselves, and then with the way that they conducted themselves. And it's something I've talked about on my podcast with John Gennaro before, but I feel like there was a moment where you thought maybe this was going to be a disaster for the Loyal because they need ticket attendance. They need ticket revenue in order to succeed and survive as a club, and to have one game and then not play in front of fans the rest of the year. That could have destroyed them. But I really feel in a weird way what happened at the end with "We Will Act, We Will Speak." I feel like it galvanized the San Diego soccer community in and around the Loyal to understand this is a club that actually stands up for what they believe in. And it's special. It's different. It's different than just putting up a black square. It's different than just saying that you're going to kneel or whatever. They actually stand for something. I've written Warren before and said, I'm happy with my job, but at some point, if I ever work for you, that would be a dream come true, because you guys live in the space that I want to live in terms of where you are morally, and where you are as an organization for character before results, because they literally gave up the playoffs in order to take a stand of character. And I'll never forget that. That's magical in the history of sports. So I know it's a, whatever you want to call it, a AAA soccer club, so to speak, USL championship level, second tier US soccer. But for what they mean to the city, I think they mean a lot more than that.
And I was fortunate, like beyond anything, like if all this was to end, the podcast to end tomorrow, I can still say that I was fortunate enough not only to be allowed to watch games for Loyal in person in a quarantine, but to be there for that Phoenix game and just feel the tension and feel that something was happening, something was off, and they would have just such a ripple effect throughout. I felt it because the last week, you can tell with the incident that happened with Elijah Martin, Loyal was not happy with it. Nobody was happy with it, and they were going to take a stand. Unfortunately, they had the opportunity to do so, and from what I can say, as being 100% San Diegan, even if I dislike and despise the sport of soccer, I wouldn't just be proud to be there and just to have them represent my city. And not only them, the players on the field. It goes throughout, as you're saying, Warren, Mr. Andrew Vasiliadis, Landon himself, everybody in that office. That is just a universal just motif that just goes across. It's they want to have a great team. They want to win, much like soccer's, but at the same time, they were presented with an opportunity to show exactly who they are. And we weren't disappointed with that. And like I said, I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that. I'm been telling that story for generations, or generation singular, right?
Well, I mean, do you have another example of a professional team that had a playoff berth on the plate and walked away from it and said, nope, we're going to take a stand purely based on character?
Yeah.
One that I mean, look, I've been around sports, right? First time working in radio was 1995. Wow. Most of the time during that time, from 95 to here, the type of thing that happened in that game, it just happened all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was normalized, it was internalized, and it would be the speaking out against it that would have been controversial.
Yep.
That would have been what everyone discussed. It would have been, judged. Mm-hmm. And so it's a beautiful thing to see the journey we have taken culturally. And obviously there's horrible obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
And January 6th is a very clear and salient example of that. And there is a deep element of white revanchism that will continue in this country for many, many years. But when I see the beauty of people recognizing the need to speak to equality and diversity, that, and just compared to what that was even 2 years ago,
Yeah.
to where it is today, where I think even 2 years ago, those guys would have been asked to just write a blog post. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
go
that's
put it on your podcast. And instead, the whole organization stood up and said, in this moment where we make no money, where the only thing that we could do that could truly benefit our club is make the playoffs, we're going to not make the playoffs because we're going to take a stand.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Again, all respects to everybody in the front office, everybody involved with that. You know, you heard, you know, chirps and words while that was happening, while they were deciding if or weren't, of like, oh, you know, there's going to be fines, there's going to be this, and no point at all. You know, I want to go ahead and just drive that just as hard as I can, just because they just never said, well, okay, maybe because of this, oh, well, the league's not going to, no, it was just a, no, we're going to do this. And man, that, what an inaugural season, right? Like, what a way to end it. What a way to begin your journey. And again, I think not only in the soccer community, I think San Diego Loyal is now recognized around San Diego as, hey, that's our soccer team. Hey, those are the guys that stood for what they were supposed to and what we believe in. Those are the guys. It's not just, hey, look, that's a cool different little trolley going on with a different type of wrapping. Like, no, that's the San Diego Loyal trolley.
No, and I completely agree with everything you both said. But then you also look at some of the people that have for some reason, have to make the comments, well, what if it happens again? Are they going to walk out again? So what would you guys say to those people that just have that negative mentality and just want to make those comments? What would you tell them? Like, well, we obviously don't know what would happen, but what would you tell those people? Like, how would you kind of guide their mentality into like, hey, that's not the point right now. The point is that they're making a stand. But what would you guys tell those people?
Don't live your life based in fear.
Nice.
You know, don't, you know, if you're always waiting for what someone else is going to do and making your decision that way, you're never going to get anywhere, because there's always going to be somebody who thinks you're doing the wrong thing. Doing the right thing by definition means standing up against people braying against it. That's what it means to do the right thing, is to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because it's the popular thing. Doing the popular thing is rarely the right thing, and that's what usually gets us into trouble, because most people want to avoid confrontation. Most people want to slide by issues and pretend they don't exist. So, I mean, honestly, Chiva, it's a great question, because you've got to think that at some point, somewhere, right, in a coach's room, in a conference room, Loyal have asked themselves that exact same question. What if this becomes a strategy in USL Championship? Oh, you're down to the Loyal 75th minute. Do something, you know, say something, because they will speak and they will act, and we will win.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
The thing is, you take that stand because the league can't afford for that to exist as a tactic. So in that situation, what you do is you put the league's life on the line, because you continue to walk off the field. And then you say, what are you going to do? Are you going to let this be a tactic in your league, or are you going to stop it? And I think when you put the action to people, they will always try to do the right thing in this regard, because they don't want to be perceived as doing the wrong thing. However, it takes putting them to it, because otherwise everyone will ignore, elide, and walk away.
So I mean, has this been also a part of discussion with the Soccers?
Good question.
That is a very good question. Well, yes, but I think that we just haven't experienced that culturally. You know, and as such, I really don't honestly know how to answer that. You know, we don't happen to have an outwardly gay player on our team. Not that that's a good or bad or indifferent thing, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but it just is statistically that happens to be the case right now. We have a very Mexican culture on our team
Hmm.
as well. I think, am I speaking out of character by saying not something as discussed?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and that has to be also, taken into account. It is a variable, and as we were discussing earlier, obviously there's different things that can be discussed in Spanish, not can be, but are discussed and are accepted with Gerard Piqué, who was,
Yeah.
screaming to the top of his lungs, que, you know, the P word that gets,
Right.
when a goalkeeper used to kick or kicks in Mexico, but in the feminine version. Like, how is that okay? Like like that. That's what the
Yeah.
difference is. And so, but then you also have to go back to say, just it's so ingrained into the fabric of the language itself. It's not like I didn't understand what Piqué was saying just because he was saying like with a castellano, but
Yeah.
it is a part of it, and it's a part of it that has to be ingrained into the education of it.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Like you said, it's a lot of Mexican culture in the soccer's, and Mexican culture is like you said, it's ingrained in our language where we're gonna say, "Hey, qué pedo, pu." It's not even referring as a bad guy as a bad term. It's kind of like saying "dude" in a way. But
Right.
obviously, it's still wrong to say. Uh, but I mean, again, it's hard to educate, especially the Mexican cultures, because we're so goddamn stubborn, and
Yeah,
we're really like, you know what? No, we're gonna be the same way that we always are. No one's gonna change our mind.
pinche is our first word usually. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, come
like
on, come on.
I learned all the curse words before I learned regular Spanish.
yeah,
You know, because I'm around a soccer field.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
I mean, and so what you're saying, honestly, Chief, is 100% correct. It's like, in order for us to have that reaction, someone on the team would have to think it was wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, do you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
I'm not. In no way am I defending that,
mm-hmm.
absolutely.
but neither I'm not trying to explain it away either. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the reality of the situation,
mm-hmm.
and not everyone and not every team, not every league, not every culture is in the same place at the same time.
Yeah,
We certainly know that. What we need as Americans, right, and as just people living in this country, is that understanding that we're
exactly.
all moving on a sliding scale, and some people are behind and some people are ahead. But if we're moving in the right direction, whatever the pace, I think we have to accept that as being progress in the right direction. So I'm very curious to see what happens in the our culture in arena soccer moving forward. Right now, I feel like kind of isolated from the circumstance.
And I did, well,
yeah.
didn't really
No,
intend
no.
to get that ingrained in detail, but it is important for everybody to know, like, exactly where we stand, because if you don't have a point of reference, you're just not going to know where to progress from, or to regress from, or where to go. And that's it's very important to be even having these discussions, whereas, as you were saying, 2, 3, 4 years ago, it would have gone on a silent little blog. No, we're here talking
And
about it.
hopefully this impacts the market in San Diego sports. Because I mean, I'm meaning to ask you, what San Diego is such a great city, and obviously we have great fans for the Padres, and we had great fans for the Chargers. But why do you think the sports market in San Diego is not as good as it should be? We used to have the Clippers a while back before, but why is there no NBA team? Why is there no NFL team, professional MLS team?
You
What
mentioned the Clippers, but not the Chargers.
from your
Got
from
it.
your point of view, you've been. I mean, you're 619 Sports. What's your take on that? What do you think that is?
Okay, so I can give you the old regulars, right? These are
Mm-hmm.
the things that folks have said for a long time, but including major sports executives in major leagues like like NBA, MLB, NFL, right? They say, look at San Diego beyond just the beauty of the city itself, right? We're a very spread out culture. Then you look at the fact that we're very, at the same time, locked into a small geographical location, meaning you go to the south, there's Mexico. You go to the west, it's the ocean. You go to the north, it's LA. You go to the east, it's the desert. So, unlike Colorado, right, or the Colorado Rockies, who draw from people from 5 states. Usually, San Diego fans are from San Diego. Uh, However, many San Diegans are not from San Diego.
Yeah.
A large piece of San Diegans are expats, are people from anywhere else in the country, and so they come in and usually create weak sports associations with our teams, meaning they will like our teams when they are good.
Yeah.
And in general, my experience having lived here since 1990, I describe San Diego, and I hope San Diegans take this the right way every time I say it. I think San Diego is one of the best bandwagon cities in the country.
That's yeah. Oh damn. Yeah.
You have a good point. I mean, I was born in LA, and so I mean, I root for a lot of LA teams.
Ugh.
But that's because there really isn't any sports in San Diego. If there was an MLS team in San Diego, I'd immediately be all about it. That's why I'm all about Loyal right now, because it's the first thing that's happening soccer wise since the Soccer City movement, which I was super excited about.
What about the San Diego Seals?
San Diego
The
Seals?
Legion. Let's go. We got to get you caught up, buddy.
Legion was a good time. That was a good time.
When was that?
No, it's true. I mean, and that's a great point, Chief. Like, I grew up in Long Beach, right? Until I moved down here for college, I grew up in Long Beach. So I grew up Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, Kings fan, and I'm still a Lakers fan. My whole life I've been a Lakers fan. I've been generally a Kings fan my whole life. I'm an LAFC fan. You can, there it is right there.
Yeah.
So I've got some LA. I'm one of those rare San Diegans who doesn't just despise LA. Although now that the Dodgers have Trevor Bauer, I've finally figured out a way to hate the team I loved as a child, the Dodgers. I've now officially gone all the way. It took Trevor Bauer to get me all the way there. But that is part of it, is that, and then let's just put the other thing on the table. Why would San Diegans have developed strong sports connections? All of our teams have lost forever, except the Sockers.
Preach.
Like, there's a reason why Sockers fans, we've got still all these fans from the 80s.
Yeah,
true.
Because they went out and watched title after title after title, and then we came back and we won 4 titles in a row. And
feels good to win.
Right. This is where I want to live as a sports fan, right? Where the winning is, and as a San Diego fan, you've either rooted for the Chargers your whole life and just been exasperated, and no team has really offered more frustration than the Chargers, or you've been a Padres fan, which has just generally been a terrible team. With like literally a handful of exceptions that you can put on one hand and say, oh, well, 84 and 96 and 98, and we were okay in 07 and 2010. It's a very, very short window. So other cities have fans who grew up watching their teams win championships, becoming forever, betrothed to those teams, teaching their children about those teams. And here in San Diego, it's usually been long-time San Diegan fans are always described as what? Long-time, long-suffering.
Yep, exactly.
San Diego fans.
Where we work in an association that has a for that starts with a Y. But there's a bus driver, Mr. Tom, just a fossil of a man, greatest guy. But just one of those long-suffering Padres fans, man. And we have our discussions of like, well, hey Tony, how are our Padres doing today? And I'm just like, it's not good, Tom. Wasn't that good. But it's those people that thankfully have always been here, because they're no pun intended, or pun intended, however you want. They're loyal. They're loyal. They are loyal to the soil, and that's what you want. That's who you want to reward. Like, sure, bandwagons, you guys are gonna help make more noise at the stadium, but you're not gonna be the one crying when our boys get themselves when the boys get themselves a World Series, not when. So I mean, again, San Diego is churning and burning. We lost Chargers, sure, whatever. We moved into now. We got ourselves a cool soccer team. We got ourselves now Padres, man. Like, what is that like? I mean, I know, again, somebody who's been in the media for San Diego. You've also suffered because, I mean, I can't imagine it's easy, interviewing a bunch of players and talking to them and back. Hey, how was this loss? Hey, how was this? You got your ass kicked again. How was that again? Like,
What was different about this loss and the last loss?
we lost by more. But, things are moving into a positive direction. And now I think it's a different conversation, a different take. Yeah. Where do you think the market of San Diego is going to, and what's the ceiling right now?
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, right? I'll start by just quickly saying something that I think was definitely a hot take in the past, but I think is starting to come true, which is that I thought the Chargers leaving would be the best thing for us as a sports city. And that is on its face crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
the
NFL is king. And there's nobody who's lived here ever questioned that the Chargers were anything but the number one team in town.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the Padres were a distant second behind the Chargers. It was the Chargers spring camp, Chargers preseason, Chargers draft coverage. Like, all of those things were more important than any Padre game. So by clearing the board of that elephant, so to speak, it allows a San Diego loyal to find their culture. Hopefully it allows a San Diego Sockers to find their culture. And I will include the SEALs, the Legion, and go down the line. Pro teams here can find a little bit of a niche, can have a little bit more of an audience. The key is to retrain San Diego sports fans, San Diego sports fans, that it's not just the Chargers. A lot of people used to talk to me and go, no, the NFL's where it's at, man. What you're doing is minor league. And so changing that perception is going to take time. And I think a club like Loyal really helps set the ground for that. Meanwhile, having said all that, we're now about to become, so that's just the first part. Okay. Yeah. That's part one.
Let's get ready for this.
Part two is, you said, like, what's our direction?
Yeah.
We're about to become one of the best baseball towns in America. Just period, exclamation point, underline, bold face, put a highlighter on it.
Yes.
San Diego is going to be one of the best baseball towns in America because 100%. We are a one sport town.
Yeah.
People talk about Cardinals fans till the cows come home, but St. Louis has had pro everything else for the longest time. They've dropped a couple of them along the way, but they've had them all over time. We've got the Padres, and we've got the Padres at a magical time.
Yes.
Where it's actually the best team to root for in the sport. And that has never been the case in 52 years until now. But it is the case. I will put it as simply as I can in that for the first time in my life, having lived here for 31 years, I am investing in season tickets.
Wow.
And there's a primary reason for that. My son is 9.5 years old. And this is the time to become a fan. Thinking to my own childhood, when I was 9, the Dodgers won the World Series. They beat the Yankees in the 1981 World Series. And then when I was 16, they won the World Series again. And they beat the A's, a team that they were massive underdogs to, and Kirk Gibson and Oral Hershiser and the whole thing. And those events made me a baseball fan for life. And even though I went on to eventually adopt the Padres as my team, and over the years, like, wean away from the Dodgers and wean toward the Padres. And now I'm 100% Padres, 0% Dodgers. Those formative experiences made me a fan. So I want my son to have those experiences. And what better way than to go to the ballpark to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. 100% guaranteed play there for the next 14 years, and Manny Machado for the next 8 years, and these great young pitchers. Like, this decade is the decade of the Padres. I don't know whether they'll win a World Series. I certainly hope they do. I don't know whether they'll go to a World Series or multiple World Series. I certainly hope they do. But I 100% know that for the next 10 years, every year, Padres baseball is number one on the map in San Diego. It's going to elevate our city. Tatis alone will elevate our profile as a city because instead of being on ESPN once a
Yeah.
year, we're going to be on 14 times, 15 times a year. This is something I've talked about on my podcast, Padres Hot Tub. You've got a Dominican superstar. You've got a Korean superstar. You've got a Japanese superstar on this team.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you can become the world's team.
Yes.
The San Diego Padres, more people rocking the brown pinstripe than the Yankees black and white.
Wow.
You know,
Can you
it's
imagine
not
that?
impossible if the next 10 years go the right way because everything is lined up. It's Camelot in a way.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's like I cannot wait for this decade of baseball to savor all the morsels of brilliance that can come. And I truly believe what's the ceiling? The ceiling is that we become known in 2030. San Diego, that's Baseball Town, USA. You know, that's where you go. You want to go see the most beautiful park, see a beautiful sunset and a great baseball game with passionate fans and sold out park. You're going to go to San Diego.
I like that.
100%. And that's what, as much as I'm not a fan and everybody's not a fan of Patriots fans at this point, people forget the Patriots were terrible for the longest time, the worst. Now, and for the past 20 years up until maybe last year, it was pretty much football mecca at this point. And that was the place to go for excellence in football. And in a much similar way, this is what San Diego has the potential to do. Just to give you an example, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there's a San Diego Monopoly. You guys ever play that?
No.
So if you're familiar with Monopoly, the first two are the cheapest ones.
Yeah.
Did you guys guess what the first and the most expensive ones were? The San Diego Zoo and the Hotel Del, I believe. Would you know what the two cheapest ones were? The Padres and the Chargers.
Oh,
really?
wow.
And that hurt me so much. I would
More
make
than
it
Old Town?
a point to buy the cheapest ones. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of it. But again, it tells you like where they were, man. Like that's where we were, where we are, and where we can be. And I'll tell you, man, I want the San Diego Padres and Petco Park to be Boardwalk and Park Place. I want them to be worth, how much are they? $500 when you buy them, and just bankrupt all your friends when you land on it. And that's what we have right now. And it's so great to have the chance, like you said, to give your son that opportunity to grow up and watching great, absolute, fantastic baseball.
That's it, man. I mean, like we've never had this opportunity before of having some measure of certainty, right? I mean, baseball is a random game, and we know that. And somewhere in these Tatis years, there's going to be a dud. Like it's almost a guarantee, right? Just the nature. Baseball is more random than any other sport. It's the reason why you watch it every day, because you want to wash off yesterday's result. It's all taken in a whole. But I feel more again. I've been working in this town for a while. I appreciated the very nice words you guys said at the beginning. And the thing I've always prided myself in my career is being a straight talker to San Diegans and not being overly bandwagony, not being over the moon. You know where my passions are, but I'm also going to shoot it to you straight. And I've been one of the biggest critics as a result of the Padres for the longest time. For making. I remember on Mighty 1090 railing in the winter of Preller in December 14, going, no, we're too right-handed, too many strikeouts, terrible defense. This team is built to fail, and they wound up being worse than the team that was before them. And it's like at the time it was like heresy. You can't say that. We've got Matt Kemp. And it's like, no, this is a bad team, and it's going to be worse.
Yes.
And for the last 5 years, because of the politics, the name of our podcast used to be Regrettable in terms of make the Padres great again. But in terms of the intent was simple, to make the Padres great.
Yeah.
And it's been a 5-year process, and the Padres are great. They're great. You can't look anywhere around and say that, the same old Padres. Where's the Will Venable on this team? Where's the Christinorphia?
You know, you
There's
said
none.
Will Venable, and I got defensive just because that's the standard of excellence of my professional team and my like. Man, like the fact that we had Adrian Gonzalez here for a little bit, and then he left, and we're like, well, we have his brother still. I was like, hey, let's go, let's go. Matt Kemp, we destroyed this guy's will to love baseball apparently, and he goes off and just has a great season, resurgence, and it's just so I'm over the moon of just how romantic the next couple of years can be. It's just
I love it, man. I love it. I hope it's a great 10 years for the Padres, because I mean, it'll be nothing great for the city. Put San Diego on the map. Finally put some respect on San Diego's name.
I love it, man.
Boys.
I do want to say, we did do a little bit of research, and in this space, we're doing this for a year, and essentially we're doing our best impression of some of the great work that you do, and it's been fun. But I do want to ask, I was looking up a interview with was about Padres and Pints a couple years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and so I just want to get your take on. You had a statement there about, the internet and whatnot. I'll just see if I can go just play it. Boom, boom. It's muted. There we go.
Kind of fill a hole, just like you guys. I mean, so much of our traditional quote-unquote media shrank, almost disappeared, changed. So many things are going on. It's crazy. I think the internet is the place where you have the most original, innovative, quality, community type content. So, just like that.
So, would you think that that's still a trend that's heading in the direction? Because again, there's so much in the soccer community with podcasting that's happening that it's another explosion. It's a different type of media boom, and obviously, you were going to ask the question as far as you've been on both sides.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, you've been in both worlds, radio and podcasting. Which one would you say is your favorite, and why is it podcasting?
Within the strike zone as a reporter.
When I say that, let me just be clear about one thing. There's no more fun, easy gig than working in sports talk radio. It's the ultimate. All right. If you can have that job, and I spent a long time trying to get one of the, 4 or 5 good jobs in San Diego. there really are only that few. But then it's your dream come true, because you walk in. I mean, the prep is just basically what you would have been doing even if you weren't working, watching the teams you love, reading about them, etc. Maybe you have to do a little bit more. You have to think a little differently in terms of how the audience is going to react and how you're going to build your show. But really, it's you walk in, you're talking, you're extemporaneous, you're having fun, you're laughing, cracking jokes, and then the show ends, and you go home. And then that's it. You've done the job. The job's over. You talked sports. It was literally what you would have done on the break of the other job you would have had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that way, I've said to a few friends of mine recently, like, you think about these things maybe in quarantine. I'm like, in some ways, I wish I was born like 15 years earlier than I was, because then I would have spent my whole career in radio.
Yeah.
I would have been able to enjoy that lovely life that a Ted Leitner enjoyed. Not to say I would have had Ted Leitner's career, but you know what I'm saying? But just like that, you're living it, you're doing it, you go home, you can make some money. It's a cush job. People think it's prestigious. It's not really, but it's so easy. Instead, my career was where right in the middle of it, being in traditional media stopped making sense.
Yeah.
And stopped making money. And now the folks you hear on morning radio, just for example, and I'm not going to call out anyone, and I've got many friends on many stations still doing that job. Even the ones who you knew from back in the day. And you're like, oh, well, they're not making a third of what they used to make. Wow. They're literally taking 60, 70% pay cuts just to be able to continue to live the lifestyle of turning up at 4:30 in the morning and walking out at 9:30.
Yeah.
And having the rest of your day in front of you. So radio is now dead. I mean, I literally, if I was offered a full-time job at 97.3, you know, unless I could keep doing all the other things I was doing, I would just turn it down
Wow.
flat, because there's no upside to it. It's a matter of hanging on for a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it lasts, you know, and then you're back out on your butt. You know, for right now, John Gennaro and I, we've been doing our Padres podcast, now called Padres Hot Tub, formerly called Make the Padres Great Again, since 2015. We have a Patreon feed now, you know, patreon.com/mtpga. And I invite everybody, if you're a Padres fan, because we're going to be doing so much more Padres content, because we do our free podcast every week, and then we do 3 others that are behind the wall for $5 a month, you know, but we've seen that audience grow. And when the audience grows, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this can start to become now our part-time job.
Yeah.
You know, and John and I keep talking about, well, if this can build to a certain point, then it starts to become kind of your number one job. You know, and there's a lovely independence to that. You know,
Yeah.
I spent over 20 years of my life always being beholden to a program manager who uniformly didn't know shit. You know, like almost every program manager, I don't even mind maligning a couple of them along the way unfairly. Almost every one of them had no business doing what they were doing, had virtually no experience in actually doing the radio. They were pencil pushers, bean counters, number crunchers, you know, there to pad their own stats. And I hated the fact that I would do a show that was electric and that people were talking to me about, and my boss didn't listen, and so it didn't matter.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it just literally didn't matter, because he didn't listen, so he doesn't care, so it doesn't matter. And when, as you guys know, who are your bosses? It's your listeners. You know, it's your supporters, it's your listeners. And if you're doing what they want,
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing, you know, and it's going to grow. And so I love this space now. I think it's incredible that whereas when I started, just let's put the cards on the table. When I started late 1990s, if you guys wanted to talk sports, you needed to call my radio station.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I
You
was
needed to
gonna
sit
lie.
on hold for 2 hours to hopefully get a minute on the air to say your piece, and you'd feel great.
Yeah.
You had that minute, and you would have forgotten about the 2 hours you spent on hold. And like, to go from that to a situation where you are speaking to your audience, talking about what you know, the topics that you care about, and that grows. That's a beautiful thing. There's a democracy to that is much truer than almost any other time we use that word in our country. And
Yeah.
so I love everything about podcasting, and I'll do over 3 hours of it today, which would be equivalent to a radio show,
Yeah.
you know, a regular radio shift. But everything about it to me is better. It's on demand. It's what you want. It's when you want it. You listen to what you want to hear. You know, sometimes like this, there's an opportunity. If you want to deal with it live, you can deal with it live, you know, and it continues to evolve. You know, we're doing on Padres Hot Tub tonight, a live podcast at 8:00. We're using a new app, I think, called Clubhouse, and
nice.
you know, dipping our toe into those waters to see what we can do in the regular season. So it continues to evolve, it continues to grow, and to have that ability that's now there to monetize it in even some small way, you know, and to build your community and have that be an organic thing. Hey, you want to listen to us for free? Listen to us for free. Hey, you like it? You want a little more? Here it is. Kick a little in, you know, help support what we're doing. I just think it's beautiful. And again, it's just so much more rewarding than anything where you do your show. A couple callers told you great show, but they were going to tell you that the second they got in the air anyway. And the boss was like, yeah, no, sorry, I only listening to Rome.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, well, I'm screwed.
And that's, you know, something that we're enjoying, and it's a luxury, honestly, to be able to speak with professionals, and otherwise, you know, I like I said, I was that guy. That's probably what made this kind of wanted me to start this is, you know what, I have some good takes, I have some good points, I have some good things. I memorize all the commercials that play. I'm there, and I'll still support, you know, radio, because I grew up with it. AM radio. I'm probably the only person in my age range that still listens to AM radio.
Yeah,
But
For
it's,
sure, that's true.
and I don't like the apps. iHeartRap. No, I like AM radio. I need AM radio in my car.
frequencies.
But it's like I said, it's a growing medium, and it's a growing area where now we feel like when we started that we started this a year ago, which was mid-pandemic. So sports died. So great on us to start a sports podcast when sports end. But even then, we had the opportunity to speak to some professional players and whatnot. But otherwise,
Probably the best thing that could have happened to us.
yeah, probably the best thing we could
starting
have.
off, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And we wouldn't be able to have this opportunity if it wasn't for where we're at now. And it's no more Mr. First Time, Long Time, Joe from whoever wants to talk about something that was in the first segment. We're here in the last 15 minutes. It's all part of it. But
I've just done a 2-segment buildup on this big story, and then you're like, hey, I heard what you said about Tiger back at 3:00, and I just want to talk about Tiger. I'm like, I don't want to fucking talk about Tiger.
But again, it just gives you that liberty, and it's fun. It's like having our own TV station, and we're able to have fun with it. And hopefully, in 2026 we get press passes for the World Cup. So that's the dream. But we do want to say again, thank you. We do have one last question, and then we do a little post interview, and then we'll let you on your way. If you had yourself a golden ticket and could go to any sporting event in the past, and you could attend live and just whatever, front row,
Without a
back
mask.
row, without a mask, what's event would you like to go to?
Wow. And this is throughout history.
Throughout history.
Any
Yep.
sport.
Any sport.
Or concert.
Okay, so don't give me concert because then I'm just going to go down a rabbit hole. I'll stick to sports, and I will go to. It's going to be a Lakers game in the Magic Johnson era.
Showtime.
So it's probably going to be the finals, and I'll just go 88 game 6 because I'll get to watch an incredible win and also Isaiah Thomas on a broken ankle shoot for like 50 something points.
Yes.
That game.
Just legendary.
So, yeah, one of the most legendary single games in NBA Finals history. So that's an easy place for me to go right now. I mean, the real truth is Tatis gloving the last out of the World Series. It's just a game that hasn't happened yet.
Oh man,
But,
I was talking with somebody. Could just imagine the explosion of emotion when if it's not even a walk-off home run by Tatis to win the World Series. I was thinking about it, gave me goosebumps, and I almost cried just thinking about it. It's the possible, and the fact that it can happen more than once in his tenure here in the 14 years. Relax.
but I'll give you that as a closer. That it blew me in my mind at the press conference that they actually referred to the Tatis extension as a statute contract.
Yeah.
Right. Because I remember when a couple Wednesdays ago when the news broke. And I was out on a walk and John was texting me and then I'm on Twitter walking and like feel like I'm floating. And like about 20 minutes in, there was this like just like it popped in my mind. I'm like, he's going to get a statue.
Yeah.
Like that's it. We're going to have a Tatis statue. It's done. It's just a matter of when. And I think I put up a poll at that time. I'm like, what should the statue be? Should it be him in his follow through or should it be like a bat flip, right? And people were like, oh, it's bat flip. But I left the real answer off the poll. The real answer is the statue is him catching the final out of the World Series. Yes. It's him, glove outstretched, both hands up in the air. He's just caught the final out of the World Series, and he's jumping, and we're going to remember that moment and that leap for all of our lives, and that will be the statue.
I've already said when that happens, there's a tattoo going on here. I don't know of what, probably of that. At this point, we so close we can go ahead and just taste it. But once again, Mr. Craig Elsten, thank you for your time, for a wonderful interview. Want to let everybody know where they can go ahead and find you, any projects that you got. I know you got Padres Hot Tub coming up. Lay it all out.
All right. Support our podcast, patreon.com/MTPGA. is where you can sign up as low as $5 a month. You can sign up for Padres Hot Tub wherever you find your podcasts. I do invite you. My passion project is my television streaming podcast, Crossing Streams. A new episode coming out tonight that I recorded earlier this afternoon. And that comes out weekly, same thing. Find it wherever you can find your podcast. Soccer's Overtime, podcast I do with Jerry Jimenez and Nate Abrea. Same places you can find it. And follow the Soccers, stsoccers.com. Follow me on Twitter at 619sports, on Instagram at 619sports and life.
There you go.
That's it. Thank you again for a wonderful time. Go ahead and stick around and we'll go ahead and have a little follow-up. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.